Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to a recap of episode 11 of the challenge Ride or Dies. All right, now, just as a little bit of a refresher before we get into this evening's episode, remember that last week we saw a change. We went from a Ride or Die format where groups of two are competing against all the other groups. They changed that up. The Ride or Dies all got split up, so we had two teams of 8 formed competing against each other instead. And with the new format, we lost our first person last week. It was a men's elimination. We lost Kenny. Yeah, Kenny, Casey's brother, lost the elimination competition of Horacio and is out of the competition. Or so we think, until we find out from TJ that no, as long as Casey, as long as Kenny's ride or die is still alive in the game, it gives Kenny a chance to come back in at some future point. We don't know exactly how that's going to work out, but don't write him off completely just yet, especially KC's such a strong player. We'll see how that works out. So Kenny's kind of still alive, but he's certainly not competing in week-to-week challenges at this point in time. So we're down to 15 players still playing. Isn't that amazing? So many people still left in this game. Now, I know it's different than Big Brother Survivor, where you end up with a final 2, a final 3. In the challenge, we'll have 6 to 8 people that'll be running TJ's finale. So you don't have to get all of these people eliminated, but you still have potentially another 7. If someone gets to come back in as part of Ride or Die, you may have another 8 weeks or so worth of eliminations. There's a lot of games still left to be played in the challenge, and it seems like we've played a lot of it already. They just have so many people playing in this game show. So we're down to 15 players, and then throw Kenny in there as well. 15 competitors on a week-to-week basis. So with that being said, let's talk about this episode. Let's talk about what happens, concerns, conversations, all kinds of fun stuff this evening. We start off by seeing Jordan talking a little bit. Now remember, Jordan is part of Mariah's team, the team that lost last week, the team that lost Kenny. Jordan is feeling, considering he's on a losing side, he's feeling okay with the way things worked out. He really doesn't feel like losing Kenny weakened their team. If anything, he thinks maybe it strengthened them a little bit. He liked Kenny, but he feels like Horacio was just a better player or a stronger player. And so Jordan's okay with the way things turned out. Given what could have happened, right? It wasn't him versus Devin, which there certainly was some conversation, but now they ended up losing perhaps, arguably, one of the weaker players from their team. So Jordan's feeling okay with that. Now, other people not quite feeling as well about the outcome. Casey trying to keep a stiff upper lip, trying to not cry on, but she's certainly upset that she lost her brother, that she lost her ride or die. And Nani's talking to her, giving her a little bit of a pep talk, saying, he went out. Everyone likes Kenny, respectable guy. He did everything he needed to do. It just didn't work out. And just trying to cheer Casey up, as you would expect. They don't know that he could be coming back at some point in time, but Casey certainly wishing it had turned out a little bit differently. Now, Donnie and Casey aren't the only ones that there may be a little concerned about the way things happened last week. We've also got Nelson and Nuris talking a little bit upset. Now, remember, they were ride or dice together, but now they've been split up. Nuris is on Mariah's team, the team that lost last week. Nelson was on the winning team, and he's glad that he was on the winning side and all that. But he's upset because he was not clued into what was going to happen. Apparently, he really thought that Jordan was going to be the pick of everyone to get brought into the elimination arena. And then last minute, or they just didn't tell him, it turned out to be Kenny instead. And Nelson's feeling like he just doesn't really, he feels isolated on this new team. As stacked as they are, he still doesn't really feel like he's an integral part of it. Nelson's talking about the fact that he just doesn't trust anyone on his team. He specifically calls out Tori and Anissa. I think the words he used is they're snakes. Just doesn't feel like he can trust them at all. So, yeah, I think he's happy to be on the stronger, the dominating perhaps side but he's not real comfortable about his position within that team itself. So he's not feeling great. Norris isn't feeling great at all, and Norris has some very good reason to be a little concerned. Last week was a men's elimination. We assume this week's going to be a women's elimination, which it turns out it is. And that being the case, Norris is feeling that because she's a rookie, because she's feels like she's done a decent job from competition standpoint and everything else, that combined with the fact that she's a rookie and knowing it's a women's elimination, she knows how valuable it is, how important it is that she and the rest of Mariah's team win this week, because otherwise she's thinking there's a very high likelihood she could be the one put up for elimination. So she understands just how important the competition is going to be this week. Now, let's talk about these two teams. When the teams were first picked, it really seemed like that Faisal maybe had the stronger players. He's got, I think, only 2 newbies, 2 rookies versus 4 on Mariah's team. He certainly has a lot of the very strong players and people with a lot of experience. Now, Mariah's got some good players. Devin and Jordan specifically are 2 great ones, but just doesn't seem like her team is quite as powerful as Faisal's team. And Bananas is talking about that. Johnny is saying that he really feels like Mariah may be thinking at this point in time that perhaps she got played by Faisal just a little bit, that she's starting to realize that as great as Faisal may seem, that at the end he does what he needs to do for his game to help his position as much more. And Bananas thinking, yeah, she's probably realizing by now she maybe got played by him just a little bit. Bananas is talking to Faisal, and they're kind of laughing about the way things worked out. And Faisal saying, yeah, she was so certain that she was going to be able to get you because she figured I was going to pick Nelson, but then I picked you first, and I still got Nelson, and it just worked out perfectly. Yeah, Mariah got played a little bit. But Bananas is suggesting that on this other team, he's saying, look, we won last week. He said, I really think if you look at the women on this team right now, there's 4 women, and of the and of the 4 of them, he said, I really think Norris is the strongest. I think that she's the best female competitor on the other team. If we can get her out, I feel like we can just win week after week after week. He's saying exactly what Norris had already expressed, her fears that she's going to be viewed as a target because she's such a strong competitor, but also because she's a newbie, a rookie. She just doesn't have the connections to protect her the way some of the others do. I mean, Nani, for example, is on the other side and certainly a strong competitor as well, but she's got a lot of connections on Faisal's side that'll protect her. Norris just doesn't have that. She's got Nelson in her corner, but she probably doesn't have a lot more. And even worse, the fact that she was hooking up with Jordan a little bit, that's got to play into Tori and Anissa and how they view Norris and how expendable they may think she is because of that as part, right? So yeah, Banana's saying, look, we just need to get rid of Norris. If we do that, I think we can win just almost every week against this other team. Now, we do see some other conversations taking place with some of the other ladies on the other team. We've got Mariah and Amber talking. They're seeming to get closer together strategically. Amber, this is her 3rd season, and she's never really felt like she was a tight component with the vets. And so she's still looking for a place to land. And it seems right now that could be with Mariah because they certainly are talking and seeming like they're going to be tight with one another. Amber, because she doesn't feel like she's got those tight connections on the other side of the house, on the other team, she is also thinking that she could easily be a target. Norris thinks that. Amber's thinking that it could easily be Amber as well. All right, so with all the background, all the conversation, everyone expressing their fears, their concerns, let's talk about the challenge this week. It was a fun one. I think the title of it, the name of the competition, was Spin Class, which is never a good way to start, right? TJ has fun with this. Basically, you're going to have 2 giant wheels. I don't know, 15 feet across or something diameter. 2 giant wheels, all one wheel for one team, one wheel for the other team. Every member of the team strapped to their particular wheel. The wheel's going to spin around. It's going to, I guess, somewhat randomly stop, pointing at one person. That one person then has to answer a trivia question. Yeah, one of TJ's favorites. He loves these trivia questions. I think he just loves showing how some of these contestants may be the damnedest competitors in terms of endurance and running and tackling and everything else. Doesn't mean they're going to be making it onto Jeopardy anytime soon. And that was certainly proven this evening. So it's a trivia competition. If the wheel spins, it lands on you. You answer your question correctly, you get a point for your team. First team to get 5 points wins the challenge for the week. If you don't get it right, that wheel spins around for 30 seconds or so. Just get everyone a little bit more queasy, a little bit more feel a little less comfortable with their position on the wheel itself. So the first team to get 5 points wins the competition. Wheel spins around. Fran, we'll go through these real quick. It turns out all the trivia questions are all related to ride or dies. How well do you know your ride or die, or famous ride or dies through history, etc. First person to get picked is Amber. Her question, and I think it's something like, who is C-3PO's ride or die robot companion? That's a Star Wars question. It's R2-D2, right? Y'all all know it. I think everyone knows it except for Amber. Amber doesn't know. Amber says she never watched Star Wars because it was too long. I got it. It shocked me. Not as much as some of the other questions that were missed on down the road, but Amber does not know who R2-D2 is. She loses her question. They spin around for 30 seconds. Next person up is Chauncey on the orange team. Ask about the famous sisters from Compton. I think they mentioned they played tennis. It's Serena and Venus Williams, right? Chauncey doesn't know. Yeah, there's a reason TJ's laughing at all this. Chauncey doesn't know. This could be a long competition at this rate in time. He doesn't know that. Next one, Horatio. A question that the answer is Bonnie and Clyde. He's never heard of them. Well, Horatio, international law, maybe a little more excuse for not knowing, but still we don't have a correct answer in this competition. Next up, bananas. The question is about, the answer is Thelma and Louise. Y'all remember the movie Thelma and Louise, right? It's, Susan Sarandon and was it Gina Davis, I think. Anyway, Thelma and Louise. Banana gets it right. Bananas is 40 years old now. Sometimes the old guys have a little bit of knowledge that those youngsters don't have. Banana gets it right, so he gets the first point for his team. Nani is up there, is asked to name the two sisters. The rider dies in the Disney movie Frozen. She can't get it right. She gets it wrong as well. Anissa is asked about the star-crossed lovers in the William Shakespeare play. Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, Anissa knows that stuff. So Anissa's got a point for her team as well. Jordan gets the question, not about some historical ride or die. His question is, can you spell Anissa's last name? Yeah, no, he can't. He misses it. He gets it wrong. I'm playing along with him. So far, I've gotten everything right. I'm misspelling Anissa's name as well. So I can't criticize Jordan too much for that. But then again, she's his ride or die, not mine. But he misses that question. Nelson gets up and is asked the name of the twins on Full House. Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen, right? Nelson gets it right. Nelson's turning it on this season. He talked a little bit about how trivia and him didn't always get along. He's gotten his question correctly, so another point for his team. Nuris is asked about the famous brothers. I don't remember how it's phrased. The famous video game brothers, the Italian plumbers or something. Mario and Luigi. She gets it right. So we're starting to see some correct answers at this point in time. Until we get to Tori, who's asked about the Goodwill Hunting, the two guys who got their starts there that became best buddies and all that. She doesn't know Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Tell you, these guys are playing so many seasons of the challenge. They're so busy going to foreign countries and playing the game. They're just not staying up with current events. not as a Goodwill Hunting as Kernan. When that kind of 20, 25 years ago, but she didn't get it right. So Tori misses her question. Mariah gets up. She has to spell the word animosity. She gets it. No problem at all. Props to you, Mariah, for being able to spell. All right, let's talk about this next one. Casey. Casey is a badass competitor. You running, tackling, throwing, anything physical competition wise and eating wise. She showed she can do what Faisal can't do. She is a hardcore competitor. She showed as though, was it last season, 2 seasons ago, that she isn't necessarily the math whiz at all times. Well, now we also know that she may not be the trivia whiz either. If you're waiting to see her on Jeopardy, you're going to be waiting a long time, because Casey has asked a question about who are the original ride or dies. Who are the ride or dies that occupied the Garden of Eden in the Bible? And she doesn't know. I think the answer she gives is, were they named Eden? No, Adam and Eve, Casey. I don't know. Who, as Faisal points out, says, I'm not even Christian and I know Adam and Eve. So yeah, that was a tough one, Casey. You better hope in this finale, which I fully expect her to be at, she better hope there aren't any trivia questions at that point, because not her strength. But she misses that one. We've got Devin being asked about the ride or dies, Scooby-Doo's ride or die, and of course he gets it right. Shaggy. Devin would know that, right? Olivia is asked to spell allegiance. She's wrong. Olivia's a pretty good player, but she didn't spell that correctly. Mariah is asked what month is Faisal's birthday. Remember, Mariah and Faisal are ride or die, a little connection outside the house and all that. Well, she's wrong. She doesn't know what month his birthday is. He's asked how many siblings she has. He doesn't get it right either. So at least they can't get too upset at each other. Nuris is then asked what is Nelson's moniker in the water. I think it was Scuba Nelly. I actually didn't know that myself, but she knew it. She's right. So another point for her team. Nelson is asked question number 2. Who are the famous guys from Vermont making the ice cream? Ben and Jerry. So yeah, Nelson's got it right. It comes down to this. Both teams eventually have 4 points. Next person to get a question correct wins the competition for their side. Devin gets the first opportunity. Now, they're already down 1 player, so they really need to win this week and protect their ladies on their team. So Devin is asked the question about who did a New York State of Mind album recently. Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. He does not get it right. I was thinking Billy Joel. I guess I'm a little more old school, but yeah, Jay-Z, Alicia Keys. Devin does not get it right. Devin had the chance. He can't criticize anyone else too much. He had the chance to win the thing. He didn't do it. So now it comes down to Bananas gets picked for the next spin for the win. A math question. What was it? 3 times 4 times 10 minus 2, something like that. Pretty basic, but I'm not going to assume anything is too basic for these players this season. Banana thinks about it for a second, throws out the answer 118. He's right. Bananas has done what Devin couldn't do. Bananas has won the competition this week for his team. That's 2 wins in a row for Faisal's team. They're going to decimate the other side if this keeps up. They're now going to eliminate a woman from the other side, which means next week, Faisal's team will have 8 players. Mariah's team is going to have 6 players. Curious to see how this is going to play out over the next few weeks. So Bananas won it for the team. They're now going to have the chance to interrogate all 4 women on Mariah's team, figure out who they want to actually send down for elimination, the elimination event coming up. But before that happens, they go to the nightclub. We got a couple of things happen. We've got Nelson complaining to Devin, pretty strong complaining to Devin, saying, look, myself and Chauncey, we're at the bottom of this team. They aren't filling us in on anything. As much as I like being on a strong team, I don't trust anyone there. I don't want to be on this team. I'd rather be on the losing team, or at least I felt like I could trust people. So he's really spilling everything to Devin. Devin's remembering all of this, and he'll use that to his advantage at some point on down the road. Kind of makes me wonder, if I'm Devin and it comes down to it, I may not be putting Nelson up when it comes time to target someone because he's already alienated from the rest of the other team. I'm going for some other targets. So it makes me wonder, is Nelson really saying this just because he needs someone to talk to, or is there's some strategy involved in telling Devin how much you aren't getting along with your team? I don't know. There may be a little bit of both, but he's certainly spilling everything to Devin at this point in time. Meanwhile, we've got Amber talking to Chauncey and saying that she really hopes. And remember, these are former rider. Well, they're still rider dies, but on different teams now. Amber's telling Chauncey that she really hopes that neither her or Nani are picked for elimination because she feels if they aren't picked, they may be able to save each other. That she feels like if she drew the safety dagger, she would save Nani. She's hoping that if Nani drew the safety dagger, she would save Amber. So she's hoping that it's not one of those two that's picked to go into the elimination arena. Meanwhile, we've got Bananas talking to Mariah and saying, look, when it comes right down to it, Mariah, I like you. I respect you, all that. The only people on your team that I care about is you and Nani. Remember, Nani and him are ride or dies, and he told her he's going to get her to the end. So he's telling Mariah, I don't want you to go home. I don't want Nani to go home, which basically means then either Amber or Nuris is where Bananas is leaning. And we've already heard him say that he thinks Nuris is kind of the key woman on the other side. So who else would be going after Nuris? Well, we certainly have Tori, who has not been real happy with Nuris. Maybe not real happy with Jordan for hooking up with Nuris. But she's got to be thinking that it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if she saw Nuris disappear from the house, given everything that's happened, right? It's got to be going on in her mind. So she's contemplating that a little bit. We do see her and Anissa and Nani and KC, all four sitting around plotting, basically working together. And I can't remember which one. They said, talking about the fact that they've all played together before. They all know each other's game, and really they're going to try to work together. They want to get all four of them to the finale this year. So we certainly do see that, and obviously Nani and KC are tight, but we've got Tori and Anissa who are also tight, but these two duos working with each other as well. Now, I mentioned Tori and maybe a little bit of friction with Nuris. Well, Tori is certainly pushing to get Nuris picked for elimination this week. And if that was to happen, it also means that Amber and Nani are not picked, and there is a decent chance they could save each other if either one of them drew the safety dagger. So it's just something else to keep in mind. With all that being said, it's now time for the interrogations. We won't go over in huge detail, but before they even start, we do have Bananas saying, look, we need to figure out which of these four women would weaken the other team the most, and that's what we need to go for. But Anissa is then turning around and pointing out that, yeah, but really, all four of these ladies are strong. They all have a lot of strengths that we can that we need to be thinking about. Remember, Anissa doesn't want Nani getting picked. She doesn't want it necessarily be the strongest player. There's a lot of, it's so strange this season, going for people strategically, but also realizing that no matter who you pick as a target, they've got a ride or die on your side that's going to be watching out potentially for their position. And so Anissa's saying, yeah, all four of them are strong, so don't think we can just go after, say, I don't know, Nani, and because she's so much stronger than anyone else. But Nelson's, before they start going with the interrogation, kind of throws it out there for everyone else. He says, look, I'm just frustrated that I didn't know what was happening last week. No one told me about it. And I really want to know going forward. And yeah, can we talk? He said, I know we may not decide right now, but before we actually cast our votes, can we talk? And it seems like everyone maybe is willing to do that. But certainly they aren't deciding this right now, because there's a lot of different thoughts going on in terms of what they're going to do. So let's talk about the interrogations themselves. Nani's the first one in. She's pointing out, similar to what Anissa said, she's saying, look, all the women are strong. She said, if I get picked, though, I'll go up against any of them. I'm not afraid to compete against any one of the other three women, but we're all strong. Don't pick me because you think I'm strong. We're all strong at this point in time. Mariah is doing just the opposite. Mariah's saying, look, I'm not much of a threat to y'all. As far as these other three women, they're much bigger threats than I am. So why in the world would you pick me? They do ask her who she would save if she drew the safety dagger, and she's smart, says, man, I don't know. Depends on what the challenge is, depends on who I'm standing next to, who y'all send in versus who I have a chance to save. She's very non-committal, which I think is the best way to go in these interrogations. Amber's talking, and she kind of throws it out there as well. She says, look, I've never really felt like the vets that y'all have had my back. I've just never felt that. She said, I hope y'all will at least, prove that you do have my back. Give me a chance to draw the safety dagger. Don't put me up for the elimination. Let me at least have that chance to draw the dagger to show that you got my back, because I haven't felt it in the past. Nuris comes in, and remember how Mariah said she wasn't really good at anything. She's not a threat. Nuris is just the opposite. Nuris is saying, well, I'm pretty good at everything. I know I'm pretty good at everything. But she also, I think Nelson had told her, said, look, don't give a lot of information. So they asked her, said, who would you save? And she won't say. She says, I don't know. I just have to look at the time and all of that. But yeah, she spent a lot of time talking about how she really did feel like she was a strong competitor, which I'm not sure that's necessarily what you want to say from an interrogation standpoint while you're in that room. But she hadn't backed off. She certainly mentions that. Now, after the interrogations are over, as they wrap up, Faisal certainly pushing for Amber. He wants to get her out the door. He doesn't want Mariah picked, his ride or die, so he doesn't want her picked. He's working with Casey, so he certainly doesn't want Nany picked as well. So he's pushing for Amber. But Bananas comes back to what he talked about before. He really wants Nuris out. He thinks that she's the strongest of the female players, wants her gone. And at this point, Nelson again says, look, can we just, even if we don't decide now, can we talk about it and decide before we're asked by TJ at the very last moment? And everyone's, yeah, sure, we'll do it. We'll see if they do or not. This team is definitely not decided. Now, we had Bananas pointing out, saying, look, who's going to weaken the team the most? Faisal points out before they leave the interrogation room, he says, look, we didn't weaken the other team last week. We just protected Tori and Anissa's ride or dies. We didn't, getting rid of Kenny, as much as we talk about wanting to weaken the other team. We didn't do it the last week. Are we going to do it this week? We're going to find out. Nany nails the deal making. And now that they've got through the interrogations, we got a little deal making going on. Nany is telling Amber that if she pulls a dagger, that she will save her. Again, these two are trying to work together as much as they can. So Nany's saying, yeah, I got your back. I'll save you, Amber, if I can. Meanwhile, we've got Mariah telling Olivia that her worst fear is if it's actually Mariah versus Nuris in the final elimination, that one or the other would go home. It's not what she's wanting. So she's going to try to make some deals of her own. So Mariah comes up and tells Nany that she'll save Nany if she pulls the safety dagger, if Nany in turn promises to save her if Nany pulls the safety dagger. So Nany says, yeah, sure. Hey, it's kind of like Big Brother. Someone proposes an alliance, or Survivor too. If someone proposes an alliance to you, you can't say no. You don't say no, but it puts Nany in a very rough position because she's already told Amber she'll save her if she gets a chance. And now she's got Mariah saying, will you save me? If so, then I'll save you. So Nany has pulled the trigger and said, sure, absolutely, I'll save you, Mariah. No problem at all. She's putting herself in the same trap that Tommy and Sis put themselves into at the very beginning of the challenge, where they promised safety to both people. They drew the safety dagger. They had to betray one group, and they paid the price the next week. Well, Nany's in a rough situation now because she's promised to protect both Amber and Mariah. We'll see if she gets caught up in this as well. As much as you want to draw the safety dagger, I don't think Nany wants to draw it this week. All right, so let's talk about the challenge itself. As they walk into the zone, the elimination arena, it looks like it's going to be a physical challenge. We see a rope circle. We see a ball. This looks like something out of Mad Max, a ball with all kinds of metal handles around it. It's going to be something brutal. It's going to be some kind of brawl of some sort. We see the votes being cast. Now, I can't tell whether they discussed with Nelson ahead of time or not how the votes were going to go. I doubt it because it certainly doesn't seem like there's a consensus opinion this week. Unlike last week, where it was a 7-1 vote to send Kenny in. This week, all four ladies, each of them gets a vote. So there's no majority consensus kind of situation. Each of them has gotten one vote. But with the majority of votes, with 5 votes, Norris has been picked. And Nelson pretty much at one point under his breath says, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Norris knew it as well. Norris has been picked going to the elimination. The question now is who she's going to be going up against her. And it isn't Nelson as the only one who's a little perturbed at this. Jordan, who is on Mariah's team, is a teammate of Norris. Jordan is saying, yeah, I don't believe for a second, because Tori says something about my vote is not personal, it's purely strategic and all that. Jordan is saying to the camera, saying, yeah, I don't buy for a second that it isn't personal. The fact that Anissa and Tori both voted to send Norris in after Norris was flirting and hooking up with me, he said, yeah, every bit it's personal. I think it's personal too. Yeah, it's got to be personal, right? But they certainly were two of the votes to send Norris in. 3 other votes along with it. So Norris is going to be competing. And now it's a matter of the other 3 ladies, who's going to pull the safety dagger. Nani's the first one to pull a dagger. And again, since she's promised safety to both of them, she's got to be sweating bullets. She avoids the potential bad situation because she does not draw the safety dagger. We didn't see the audible sigh of relief, but I'm sure it was taking place internally for her. So Nani does not have the safety, but she also doesn't have to make the decision. The next person to pull the dagger is Mariah, and Mariah has pulled the safety dagger. Yes, indeed. So who's Mariah going to save? Is she going to save Nani, or is she going to save Amber? Well, Amber's feeling that Mariah maybe has her back. She says, we've been working together, so I would hope that she would save my back. The problem is Mariah had promised Nani safety if she drew the safety dagger. Is she going to go back on it? No, she saves Nani. She says, look, I got to do it. I'm going to save Nani. It's the right decision, not only because she'd made the promise, and even though she and Amber were working together, she hadn't made the promise necessarily. And Amber seemed like she wasn't at all, not completely surprised. But the big deal, from Mariah's standpoint, if she had not saved Nani has so many connections on the other side, on the other team, that it would have made an instant target of Mariah for so many on that other side. So yeah, Nani's too well protected. So I think Mariah did the right thing in saving Nani. So what that means is that now we're going to have an elimination between Amber and Norris to see who goes home this week. So Norris versus Amber, and it turns out the name of the game is Pago Brawl. I think Pago describes this ball with the handles. I don't know what they use that for in Argentina. I've been Argentina. I've never seen a Pago ball being thrown around. Looks a little dangerous to me, but it doesn't matter. The key is that it's a competition where the 2 ladies are each going to start off with grips on the handles on this ball. TJ blows a horn. The first person to rip the ball out of the grasp of the other person wins that round. First person to win 2 rounds wins the competition. The other one goes home, or at least they leave the house until we find out what happens if the rider dies and all that. So that's the way the game's going to be played. Pretty straightforward. As basic as they come. First round takes forever. Neither one of these women are willing to give this thing up. They're fighting hard. At one point, we actually see Amber saying, look, my goal is just to tire Norris out. I'm going to exhaust her, and then I'll do what I need to do. It works. It takes forever, but eventually Amber does win round 1. She manages to kind of twist around and just leverage her body so that Norris cannot hold on to the ball. Rips out Norris's grasp. Amber's won round 1. Round 2, Amber wins it. Norris goes home. Norris has to win to force a third round, a sudden death round. No, it's not to be. Amber wins the second round. Didn't seem like it took nearly as long either. I think Norris is just exhausted at this point in time. So Amber has won the competition. Amber stays in the house. Norris, as with Kenny, we see TJ informing her that, well, your game may not be completely over. Your ride or die is Nelson. As long as he continues playing the game, there's a chance that you could come back in. which makes her incredibly happy. Now, I noticed the whole time that she's talking to TJ and everything, she's holding her arm. Something happened. I don't know. It may just be a sprain. It may not affect her going forward, but it could be more. We just don't know yet. We probably won't know unless she gets back into the game, and then we'll see. But at the end of the day, Amber's feeling much better. She stayed alive. She did not get picked, so hopefully that makes her feel a little more comfortable. That the vets didn't throw her to the wolves. They didn't pick her. It just one of those things. She's proven herself though, so she's feeling all right with it. But Norris is gone, which means now Mariah's team is down to 3 men, 3 women. Norris was the loss. I think Bananas is right. Norris is one of the stronger players on Mariah's team. They're right there on the edge. I think if they lose another 1 or 2 before they can take some shots at the Fessel side, it's going to just be a domination. They're going to get rolled over. So they really next week need to win this thing and take some shots on the other side. We'll see if that happens or not. So there you have it, guys. We're now down to 14 players still playing the game. We lost Norris, which obviously Nelson's not happy. It's only going to make Nelson hate and mistrust the team he's on even more so. And I'm telling you, somewhere down the road, Devin's going to grab hold of Nelson and changes are going to happen. I don't know I don't know how that's going to work out, but Nelson's not happy. Devin's going to make sure he takes advantage of that situation. I have no doubt. All right, guys, until next week, y'all have a fantastic week. I'll be back to cover the next episode. We'll find out if they can change the winning streak and maybe take a shot at Fessel's team. But until then, guys, y'all have a great one. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.